No matter how dark the world gets, be like the star that stands out and shines the way for others to see. No matter how different we are, we all enjoy one sun. We touch one water. We are covered with one sky. My culture is my history, and my history is my education. And my education is what I want to tell you about a beautiful nation which so many people doesn't know about. This country, it all started in 1462 when a Portuguese explorer cruises from the Mediterranean down to the Atlantic Ocean. He arrives in this country. He saw mountains shaped like lions. It was in the rainy season. He had a thunderstorm with lightning, which the sound of the thunderstorm simultaneously with the lightning resembled lions' roars in the mountains. He gave this country Sierra Leone, which is translated in Portuguese as Lion Mountain. This country is Sierra Leone, my country of birth. Let's take a brief history on how this country have scrambled, how it has made it today. Today is our independence, which has marked 62 years since we gained our independence from the British people. Let's look at that brief. Um, in the 18 something, organizers USA in the 17th to the 18th century, during the scramble and partition of Africa, the UK, of course, France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, and Belgium. That was the Berlin Conference to decide which country is going to have which in Africa. Well, my own country was pretty more maybe lucky to be colonized by the British people. It was quite interesting. In 1801, 1808, Sierra Leone was under British rule. Well, they did a lot. Is to compare during the British rule, Sierra Leone was the anthems of West Africa. Why was it called the anthems of West Africa? The first university was established in Sierra Leone in 1827, which is older than my university here in the UK. Secondly, the first senior secondary school for boys and girls in Sierra Leone was established again in the 18 sorry in the 19th century. I think I can remember one which is Annie in 1848. Please, I'm not too sure of those dates, but that's exactly. Notwithstanding, the first tropical hospital was established in 1929 by Prince Arthur, which is Connaught Hospital. Well, so many people has to see that Sierra Leone also have the first national broadcasting service, which is the SLBC as well, which I don't know the date. In that time, Sierra Leone gained so many transformation because I think when I was reading history, there's somewhere I read that Sierra Leone there are greater there were, I think there were greater children going to school in Sierra Leone in the 19th century. There's a lot of children going to school as compared to England. That might be a fallacy. Well, this is controversial as I have no proof, but that's what's explained if you read history. Maybe my own history has different way of interpretation, but that's how it looks like. This is how you're looking in the anthems of West Africa. My question is, was Sierra Leone prepared to gain independence, or did we rush our independence? Well, it continues like that. In 1961, first in 1960, Samuel Magai and other people came together that they want to gain independent. They want to be on their own. Do you know what I mean by independent? You live on your own. Well, it was a very heavy task, but it was granted. Well, let's come back brief. Let's just pause there a while. Some of the recognition Sierra Leone gained during slavery. Well, of course, in 1808 and so many times, slavery was abolished in 1787. There are so many ingredients that you need to know, but which you might not understood before that time. Um, let's give thanks to William Wilberforce and Gravin Sharp for what they did. Today, if you've seen, you've heard about the Creole and other, yeah, the Creoles are to be specific, which predominantly own Freetown. It all started in that time when the transatlantic slave trade was over how many thousands of slaves were sent to Africa, and Sierra Leone was an example of a country which they find is very fertile. It was free. The name Freetown, how it came about, is when with the slave trade, because of course you might have understood that in 1787 during the British War of Independence, so like the Americans just have to fought, and most of these slaves were told when you won, when you win this election, sorry, this war, you have to gain independence on your own. You have to be as free slaves, but we send it back somewhere. But like this is how it works. So after I think they won the war in that time, so the 19th to 19th century, yeah. So these slaves were sent to Sierra Leone. I will not give a much summary of that. Of course, you can find out more on that story. But I'm just want to give you a glimpse of what actually happened in Freetown. So they came. That was around the 18th century. They settled in the cotton tea. So if you go to Freetown, that cotton tree where the slaves gathered from the port. Now today we have the port which is called Queen Elizabeth II port is there. So that's the place where the slaves came to settle. They expanded across Freetown, and so today we have Crewtown, Crewbay, all these places. Vasquisians, the Maroons, the Black Paws, and all of that stuff. So Freetown actually has a very rich history and culture. If you read history and understand how this country started, it's quite interesting. So, like, this is all things that we gained during the British rule of 153 years. Nevertheless, they tried theirs. This is all the recognition we gain. Now, let me ask you, was Sierra prepared for this independence? That's a question mark you have to answer. Maybe on the description, in the description below, or in the comment section that I will ask people to give their own comment and thoughts on what actually they think about Sierra Leone getting independence in 1961. Now, let's compare when we gain independence on today, the 27th of April, 2023. Albert Milton Magai was the first prime minister in 1962 after independence. They went on. He died a few years ago, a few years later. He gave to his brother Albert Magai. Was that election? Well, it was the second prime minister, it was just a transition of power, which they did. That was okay. So many years back, there are so many political parties has been established. The SLPP and the APC were established. So the next, that's the first general election was held there in 1962. After then, we have, I think, a free and fair election, what they call whatever, which is the APC and the SLPP. Yeah, Stevens come to power. That's a changed constitution. Because he wanted to be the president. He was the first excellent president anyway. That's I could not remember the year. I'm very sorry for that. You can do that. I don't want to give you a brief history of that. So it takes that time. Stevens, yeah. So he ruled some say for 26 or 20 years. He changed his constitution to one party state, which has made people so angry. So let's analyze what exactly his achievements. There are so many rumors of many bad things that happened at that time. Yeah, well, I'm not pro APC or anti SLP, no matter whatever. So what happens is a lot. We heard about the establishment of the football stadium. Um, there's a what we call it U building, but I'm sure during that time, Stevens would have done a lot to stabilize the country's economy with infrastructure, education, and stuff. Sierra Leone lose its anthems when we gain independence. Sometimes so many people have to give blames on the Civil War, which is just few years back. Of course, the Civil War was all as a matter of so many prolonged, undemocratic ruling in the country. When Stevens died or whatever, so he transferred the power to G.S. Moore. G.S. Moore was nothing. He didn't do anything. So many. Although when I was doing some investigation, I had that he was the one who brought Commerce Hospital. He's one who established it. But those two people have done a lot. They would have cited an example which would have transformed the country to a very high magnitude that today Sierra Leone would have been proud of. Nothing. That's from that the first election. Omo came, nothing he have done. Of course, John Kaba did his, and he brought a lot of a lot of changes like maybe constitutional reforms, social service activities, and stuff like that. He brought some changes, and he tried because he was working in the UN. I think he has some experience and stuff like that. That's his time. The SLBP ruled for a few years, something like 10 years. Then APC come back, roads, we saw electricity, glimpse electricity. The Marabio took power over as well. That's the highest of inflation recorded in the history of the country. We've been ranked by the IMF of the country that has the highest food prices in the world. So I take a look, but like yet we still love our country. We are still patriotic. We love our country. So just brief of what I told was Sierra Leone really prepare for 1961 independence? So you have to answer that. So I'm very sorry to take you too long if you have to watch this video, but I hope you find it very interesting. Oh well, mashallah. I wish my country happy Independence Day and all of those who are in Sierra Leone. I'm very much sorry that today it's my class time, so I could not celebrate more because I have exams at heart, other things to come. But I wish everybody in my country, from wherever you are across the globe, wish you happy Independent Day. And then we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant more peace, prosperity, good leadership, good education. We pray for basic social amenities. We pray for good leaders that have mercy on us, leaders that have sacred at heart, leaders that actually have focus to develop the country, to transform the country, to compete to global development. We are seeing a lot of things happening across the world. We ask the Almighty Allah to grant peace in all those countries that are in war in Syria, in Yemen, Sudan, in Ukraine, and all those countries that they are in war. Ask Allah for peace and stability, and all those countries have celebrated their independence as well. Wish you all the best. Till we meet again, my name is Momo Mustafa Kamara. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum. Do not forget to subscribe and make sure share and make sure as well give a thumbs up and leave your own comments on whatever you think about Sierra Leone was we really prepare for independence. Assalamu alaikum. Stay blessed and stay safe.